I'm Andrew Cohen of the Bertelsmann Foundation in Washington, D.C. I'm joined by the United States Deputy Trade Representative, Ambassador Miriam Sapiro, to talk about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, also known as TTIP. Ambassador, thank you for joining me.
I'm delighted to be here.
Let's start with the country you represent, the United States. What will be the main benefits of a TTIP for the U.S. economy and for Americans?
We already have a tremendous economic partnership with Europe. Our combined share of global trade is about 30%. We trade roughly $3 billion a day in goods and services. Our investment relationship is valued at about $4 trillion. Nonetheless, both sides feel that there is untapped potential that we can realize through a new transatlantic trade investment partnership. And we're both looking forward to the opportunity to doing that.
What sectors in the American economy do you think can benefit most from a TTIP?
I think there are a number of sectors, whether you look at goods, such as agricultural goods, where we would like to see more access to the European market, or you look at services where both economies have strong advantages globally. The market is relatively open, but nonetheless, we feel that there are benefits that we could both achieve by an enhanced focus on services access. And I would say the third area is greater regulatory cooperation. We both feel that there would be tremendous benefits to being able to reduce some of the costs and regulatory red tape that exporters face on both sides of the Atlantic.
What do you think are the biggest challenges to getting a TTIP through on this side of the Atlantic? Does the political will in the administration and on Capitol Hill exist to ratify an agreement?
I've been very pleased by the positive signs that we've gotten so far from a broad range of members of Congress, from our stakeholders across different sectors, because they too share the hope that we'll be able to tap these areas where previously agreement has been more challenging. I mentioned already agricultural goods. Well, there are also what we call SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary barriers that can sometimes inhibit the export of American agricultural products to Europe. Another area I want to mention where we both see great promise is in dealing with what I'll call global challenges, establishing new standards of transparency and openness, addressing challenges like localization measures that countries sometimes use to keep foreign products out. State-owned enterprises, we both feel a strong commitment to establishing high standards on those areas. So we together may be able to establish standards that deal also not with bilateral challenges, but with emerging global challenges and trends.
Where there are winners, there are often losers. And that's where there is a potential problem on Capitol Hill, don't you think?
Well, I have a different view, especially when it comes to trade. I think there are win-win scenarios. And that old expression that a rising tide lifts all boats rings true when we're talking about trade done right. So the Obama administration has made a real priority to rebalance our concept of trade so that it's not trade at any cost, but it's trade that reflects American values. So for example, in our trade agreements, we typically have high standards with respect to labor and the environment. We wouldn't envision it being any differently with Europe, and I think they feel the same way about the new partnership that we're forming. So trade done well benefits both sides, and I think will have tremendous benefits for both economies.
Is the EU a reliable negotiating partner for the United States?
We've spent a lot of time with our European partners before the decision was made to proceed. And we did that because it's not as if no one's ever thought of doing a US-EU trade agreement before. It's simply that the stars didn't align properly. And we wanted to make sure that this time there was real strong commitment on both sides to a genuine negotiation.
But isn't there a danger that a TTIP could lead to a global breakdown into regional trading blocs?
Well, we believe that if we can achieve an ambitious, comprehensive, strong TTIP, that it will help create high standards that others may also be interested in relying upon. And one day, it may help us even rejuvenate global trade negotiations, which, as you know, ministers recognized have been at an impasse. This may even help deal with that situation down the road.
What are you expecting from the Chinese to any TTIP that is in fact concluded and ratified?
What am I expecting from the Chinese? Well, I think we have a very strong relationship with the Chinese. President Obama met with his counterpart just last week in California. We obviously discuss a range of trade and investment issues with China, as well as many other issues. China and the Europeans also have a robust relationship. I think a strong U.S.-EU trade agreement will benefit other trading partners by creating more efficiencies, by supporting global value chains, and again, by raising the high standards that we believe trade agreements should adhere to.
What is your view on the timing and the comprehensiveness of a TTIP?
Well, on the timing, I'd like to be optimistic as well. I can't give you a specific timeline. I can tell you that the Commission is certainly interested in doing as much as it can, if not finishing, before its term runs out, which is in the fall of 2014.
But you are optimistic that an agreement, A, will be reached, and B, that it will be more comprehensive than moderate, shall we say?
On the point about comprehensiveness, we both agreed, U.S. and Europe, that our goal is an ambitious and comprehensive agreement. That is the best way to make progress, make the most progress for both economies. Doesn't stop people from asking the question of, why don't you shoot for something less ambitious? Why don't you focus on these issues and not these issues, which have been harder to address? In my view, it wouldn't provide the same value. I also think that an agreement that isn't comprehensive and isn't ambitious would have difficulty getting the support that we would need in Congress. I mentioned earlier that we have very strong support from members of the House, members of the Senate, Congress as a whole, for what we are trying to do. That's because we're trying to do an ambitious and comprehensive agreement. I don't know if we would have that level of support for something less, that perhaps put the harder issues aside.
What is the administration doing to regain TPA?
Well, first of all, we are acting consistently with the Trade Promotion Authority that did previously exist. So in terms of our intense consultations with Congress and the kinds of issues that we are addressing in the proposed agreement, very consistent with the TPA that did exist. With respect to seeking new Trade Promotion Authority, we've made it clear that we would like to do that with Congress, and we look forward to working with them to achieve that.
Ambassador Miriam Sapiro, thank you very much for joining me to talk about the Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership.
My pleasure, Andrew.
I'm Andrew Cohen with the Bertelsmann Foundation in Washington, D.C. Thank you for watching.